The Tommy Campbell Show. Donald Trump's DoorDash Grandma Stunt is already backfiring, and I'm going to have a laugh breaking down the truth about the no tax on tips plan and the Sharon Simmons connection that most people are missing. There is a lot more to this gig worker story than a viral Oval Office delivery. Plus, I'll be diving into a week of religious cosplay from Trump's AI-generated Jesus to Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth revealing that his Sunday school was apparently just watching Quentin Tarantino films. But before we get into the blasphemy and the burgers, we have to talk about this. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. cut penis off Raccoon. Headlines I didn't even know were possible. This is like a fever dream. In a 2001 diary entry from his new biography, RFK Jr., The Fall and Rise by Isabel Vincent, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. wrote, "I was standing in front of my parked car on I-684, cutting the penis out of a road-killed raccoon, thinking about how weird some of my family members have turned out to be." I think it's safe to say you've officially turned out weird when you're the guy performing highway trash panda surgery. But wait, there's more. "My kids waited patiently in the car," he added, then told People magazine he collected the raccoon's genitals so he could study them later. Keep in mind, he's not a doctor, he's not a veterinarian, he's not even a biologist. He's a lawyer. The right-wing side of the internet is already swarming to defend him, claiming that raccoon penises are actually bones called baculums and that they are useful. Listen, I've been in a lot of weird situations in my life, and not once have I ever thought to myself, what do I need right now? A socket wrench, a spatula, or the bone from a dead raccoon's dick? Gavin Newsom wasted no time trolling him with this live look at RFK Jr. on the side of the road. And I just love this. Our lawyer didn't even push back on this one, LOL. The truth isn't defamatory. Subscribe. And of course, make America healthy again, which brings me to this. Loving it. President Trump receives the first ever DoorDash delivery to the Oval Office, highlighting no tax on tips, which helps millions keep the money they earn. Newsom's post doesn't hold back. Donald Trump, a convicted felon who has also been found liable for sexual abuse, is ineligible to be a delivery driver on most apps, but somehow he's our president. Just like how the world is discussing Melania and Epstein since she said they were never friends, the DoorDash stunt Trump is now calling tacky put the no tax on tips situation and the GOP's crisis actor under a microscope. Now, the next guest has appeared on this show for years, though it's been a few months since we've heard from him. Apparently, he's been spending his time in Moscow grocery stores or whatever, but he begged me to patch him in so he could share his perspective on the DoorDash Grandma. Joining us now from a bunker made of cedar and confusion, Tucker, are you there? Good evening, I'm Tucker Carlson, and tonight I'd like to talk to you about the rare technological breakthrough we all just witnessed. No, not the Artemis returning to the Earth that MAGA insists is flat, but apparently Donald Trump, the president of this country, the man I privately called a demonic force while doing everything in my power to get elected, that Donald Trump actually used his phone for something other than all-caps dementia diatribes directed at the Pope and threatening to destroy the world, the very planet you live on. Donald Trump was ordering hamburgers for delivery. At least that's what he wants you to believe, after a video went viral this week of a woman dubbed the DoorDash Grandma delivering a bag of McDonald's directly to the Oval Office. Oh, the iPhone isn't just for starting wars and creeping Ivanka's Instagram. If you've ever actually been to DC, you know you can't get so much of a bottle of water past security without a colonoscopy. Hold the gloves. But we're just supposed to believe Sharon strolled up to the pedo patio with 2 sacks of Big Macs and a dream. What is going on? Well, it turns out Sharon isn't just a random driver who happened to deliver the cheesy beef accelerant, taking us one day closer to the big, beautiful obituary. DoorDash and Diaper Dawn didn't think you'd be able to connect the dots. They hoped you wouldn't question why you sort of kind of definitely recognized this woman. This woman that they admitted they flew in. Huh? Well, in 2024, Sharon was featured in local news segments in Nevada. A heartwarming look at a grandmother in Boulder City who was completing thousands of deliveries to support her husband Leo during his cancer battle. She even testified as a Nevada Dasher in July 2025. They weren't looking for a worker to help.
They were looking for a story to sell a policy. Now suddenly she's Sharon from Arkansas. She changed her hair, wore longer sleeves to hide her tattoos, but failed to get the memo from lumpy pillow guy Mike Lindell that you have to flop your cross outside if you're not going to be dangling it above your Brian Gnomes. Oh, look at my giant boobs. What if at one point Sharon, if that's even her name, was compromised by China or Iran, who we're at war with, and that bag wasn't the sodium-saturated fat bomb going straight to the president's big boy pants, Eric, get the golden turd tongs, but rather something nefarious, like one of Marjorie Taylor Greene's pipe bombs, or a stack of Melania DVDs. It is entirely possible. I'm just asking questions.
Is the fact that I heard you picked up an extra $11,000 that you didn't get because the tax bill was so big. The refund was the biggest you've ever had. Is that a correct statement?
It definitely was. Yeah, I saved over $11,000 by not having to claim.
Was that surprising to you?
It was very surprising.
Now I love that with all the coaching and flying her in and branding her, they still couldn't get the story right. The numbers are different.
Probably saved probably $3,000 to $4,000 with not having to pay.
But you just told Trump 11. Also, beef prices have skyrocketed 21% since Donald Trump took office last year. Sharon didn't get to the Oval Office because she's a great driver. She got there because she's a great character. DoorDash found a grandma with a tragic medical story and turned her into a traveling salesperson for a tax bill that helps the company more than it helps her. They're calling this the American dream, but when a dream involves a 70-year-old woman delivering cold fries to a billionaire to pay for her husband's chemotherapy, maybe it's time to wake up. By shifting a worker's take-home pay from a taxable wage to a tax-free tip, they offload their own labor costs onto the customer's conscience. In the standard gig economy pay structure, DoorDash gives a base rate as low as $2, which is the only portion they are technically liable for. By highlighting tax-free tips, the company can keep that base pay stagnant because, hey, no tax on tips. DoorDash, meanwhile, avoids the employer's side payroll taxes on those earnings, saving hundreds of millions in overhead while providing zero healthcare, zero sick leave, and zero retirement. Investors love this tax policy because it makes gig work just attractive enough to keep a desperate labor force like 70-year-olds with medical debt on the road without having to classify them as employees and be on the hook for any benefits. For a decade, DoorDash and Uber have promoted the important fact that drivers carry no cash as a foundational safety rule to protect them from robberies and violence. The transactions and tips are all through the app, and for good reason. The system is designed to be cashless for the driver's protection. Yet Trump stood on the pedo patio peeling off a C-note for her like he's buying her around at the Kit Kat Club. I'm an artist, some may disagree, but back in the day I spent years waiting tables and bartending. It's no secret that people in that profession don't show every buck they get for sliding someone a beer to the government. Even the IRS estimated that over 40% of cash tips are unreported, meaning the Trump clown car is taking credit for cutting taxes on money they were never actually collecting. Now, the GOP is framing this no tax on tips as this uniquely American freedom. If Sharon Simmons were in Australia, she'd be getting over $25 an hour, and in July, that's going up to $31, and her husband's cancer treatment would be covered by their universal Medicare system. The UK guarantees these workers a national living wage, statutory sick pay, and actual holiday pay. While Sharon is being flown to DC for a photo op, a driver in London is legally accruing paid vacation time for every tikka masala kebab and cotton chips with mushy peas they deliver, and their healthcare is handled by the lovely NHS. To the north, there isn't a need for a big, beautiful bill to save the DoorDash grandma because of Canada's universal healthcare. Same as Australia and UK, the driver in her position will absolutely pay tax on tips. Oh no. But in the province of BC, for example, she'd be guaranteed nearly $22 an hour with vehicle expenses and workers' comp baked into the law. Her husband's chemo wouldn't be a reason to work. She might still choose to dash for extra spending money. She just wouldn't be doing it to keep her spouse alive. But in America, the narrative is that it's somehow inspiring to watch a senior citizen hustle for tips to pay for life-saving medicine. It has been a massive week for people referencing the Bible and getting absolutely none of it right. Pete Hegseth held a prayer service at the Pentagon and recited what he called Ezekiel 25:17. Now, if that sounds familiar, it's not because it's from the Bible. It's the monologue Samuel L. Jackson gives in Pulp Fiction before he executes a guy. The party of family values. Pete didn't just quote Tarantino, he even edited it to replace the Lord with his own military call sign.
The path of the downed aviator is beset on all sides by the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men. Blessed is he who, in the name of camaraderie and duty, shepherd the lost through the valley of darkness, for he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of lost children. And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to capture and destroy my brother. And you will know my call sign is Sandy 1 when I lay my vengeance upon thee.
90% of the speech Hegseth gave doesn't exist in the Bible. Tarantino and Avery wrote this part specifically for the movie. They took one real line from the end of Ezekiel 25:17 and built a cinematic prayer around it. Hegseth has spent his life thinking a scene from a fictional movie is a Bible passage, and he's still trying to convince you his tattoos aren't questionable, and that's not scotch on his breath. Gavin Newsom wasted no time and posted this mock poster. Pete Fiction. I just make stuff up because I'm war secretary. And for the record, yes, there is more to that sermon clip, but religious stuff is boring enough, so not gonna go there. And all this happened the same week that Trump posted himself appearing as Jesus Christ, healing a sick man in bed who looks a lot like Epstein. And Trump made this claim.
It was me. I did post it, and I thought it was me as a doctor, and had to do with Red Cross as a Red Cross worker there, which we support. And only the fake news could come up with that one. So I just heard about it, and I said, how did they come up with that? It's supposed to be me as a doctor making people better, and I do make people better. I make people a lot better. As an example, the 11,000, I understand your husband's going through treatment.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He's
He
going
has
through
cancer.
some very serious cancer treatment, so
Yes, sir.
this goes a long way.
Yes, sir. It sure does.
Okay, before I get crazy haters, I'm not laughing at her husband going through cancer treatment. Obviously, that's awful. But going to your DoorDash plant crisis actor for backup and you're the president's pretty bizarre. If your cardiologist has a linen robe and light emitting from his hands, you might want a second opinion. The thing is, if Trump really wanted to kill the him is Jesus controversy, he had a built-in escape hatch right there. He could have just said, look, that guy in the robe is a white guy with blonde hair. Clearly, that's not the historical Jesus, who was a brown-skinned man from the Middle East. But he can't do that because acknowledging a brown Jesus is a MAGA nightmare. And if you didn't see, they're already burning the hats over this. Now, the only reason I'd actually be offended of images of Trump as Jesus is because of the sight of his cantaloupe cankles sticking out of his sandals. Fortunately, we only got the waist up. And yes, there's the DoorDash grandma. Oh, the memes are they're fantastic. They flooded the internet along with this Spirit of Halloween Red Cross outfit. Newsom posted, does this look like a Red Cross worker to you? And rolled back the tweets to share this one, asking, does Trump think he's a doctor here too? But that doctor was just the beginning. Once the seal was broken, the AI Jesus post started flooding like a digital plague. Trump has been sharing images of Jesus sitting in the courtroom gallery, Jesus leaning over the Resolute desk, giving him notes on executive orders, and Jesus basically acting like his personal Tony Robbins. I make this independent show on my own. If you love what I do, consider leaving me a tip, become a member for extras, hit up my referral links, and stream my stand-up on Spotify. There were some other major losers and winners this week. First up, the winner, Prime Minister Carney, secured a Liberal majority with a 3-seat by-election sweep. He triggered a landslide in Quebec and Toronto that effectively silences the Axe the Tax crowd until 2029. This is a massive blow for Pierre Poilievre. The Maple MAGA meltdown is real. Despite his softball appearance on Joe Rogan, Pierre's candidates didn't just lose, they plummeted by double digits in all 3 ridings. Another huge loser, after years of secrets and a fresh batch of sexual misconduct allegations, Eric Swalwell finally did the math and resigned from Congress. You know you're stupid when you have more skeletons in your closet than a Spirit Halloween store, and you think a gubernatorial run will help keep things under wraps. Running for governor to hide a scandal is like plugging your ears to hide a fart. Good riddance, Eric. Don't let the door or the investigation hit you on the way out. You have been brainwashed by the lame street media. I love the capitalization, like the Lame Street Media is an official thing. Lame Street Media. Is that near Sesame Street? Because I'm pretty sure Oscar the Grouch has more credible sources than your true social feed. I don't even think you were going for Lame Stream Media, and that's what makes this even better. MAGA tears. You're a crybaby, Campbell. Come on, my surname is in the show, the channel, the description, and you still couldn't get all the letters in there? Maybe next time you're opening a dented tin of chowder for your cousin wife on date night, you'll see my correctly spelled name staring you down, and just maybe you'll realize you're a moron. MAGA tears. You know you can't get so much as a bottle of water past security without a colonoscopy. Hold the gloves. Leave the rings on.
I was standing in front of my parked car on I-60-84, cutting the penis.
Listen, I've been in a lot of situations in my life, and not once have I thought to myself, what do I need right now? How do I fix this? Socket wrench, spatula, or the bone from my dead raccoon's dick? What Swiss Army knife does that come in?
I can confirm the Tommy Campbell Show is the best political comedy show on YouTube. And I hope you subscribe.